Hello and good afternoon, everyone. University of Engineering and Management and Smart Society USA is jointly organizing the 89th International Web Conference and HR Congress on theme Living with the COVID, New Requirements of Etiquettes, Human Behavior, Knowledge, and Skills for Being Recruited. The focus of this International Web Conference and HR Congress will be on the analysis of what recruiters will expect from job seekers with regard to etiquettes, human behavior, knowledge, and skills, while it has become a necessity to lead the normal life with the virus. It will also provide an excellent platform for networking both nationally and internationally. This is a 2 days conference with one keynote speech followed by a panel discussion on the first day and another keynote speech followed by another panel discussion on the second day. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Vishwajoy Chatterjee, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University of Engineering and Management, Jaipur, for the welcome address. Professor Chatterjee completed his PhD from the National Institute of Technology, Agartala, specializing in nanoscience and nanotechnology. He is pursuing research in the same domain in addition to computer vision and speech processing. He is a well-known name in the field of applied robotics and has conducted several national level workshops in robotics. Over to you, sir.
Hello and welcome everybody. I'm so glad to find more than 450 attendees in this session. It's really a great moment. I, on behalf of the University of Engineering and Management, UEM, and the Institute of Engineering and Management, IEM, and Smart Society USA, welcome you all to this 89th International Web Conference and HR Congress. Now, as we all say, that we like to hear from the horse's mouth, and as all of us are extremely eager to know the situation of recruitment, who can be better than the respected keynote speaker over here, Mr. Jean, and the respected panelists over here to hear it from. After all, they are the owners of the companies or the recruiting authorities over there. As I am representing the IEM and UEM group, so to tell briefly about it, the IEM and UEM group is the oldest and the socially accredited best self-financed institute of West Bengal and Rajasthan, India, with our alumni members spread all across the globe in respectable positions in the industry and academic and research institutions. We made our mark on the land of Jaipur, Rajasthan in the year 2011, and our passing out students are always carrying our fame to all parts of the globe. IEM and UEM group was established back in 1989 as the oldest self-financed institute of West Bengal. And today we are socially accredited the best, one of the best in the country, and definitely the best in West Bengal. Regarding the topic of this conference, as all of us are talking about a terminology called new normal, indicating that the normal life has changed. So also the requirement of etiquettes, human behavior have changed. And society now expects something more as etiquettes, something more as human behavior in general. We have all assembled over here today to hear from the experts on whether the requirements of etiquettes, human behavior, and most importantly, the skills have changed in this world where we are running parallelly with the COVID. So my question for the keynote speaker and the panelists remain: does industry expect something different or something more as etiquettes, human behavior, and skills to recruit somebody now? Before the COVID, industry was talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, cloud computing, electric vehicles, renewable energy. Have those in the form of requirements from industry to recruit increased, or have those changed? With all these questions in mind, I leave over to the speaker for the day to discuss on all these and throw some light for our students and teachers who are eagerly waiting to hear from you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks to the entire audience who have gathered over here. I request Professor Shatabdi to take over again.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful welcome address. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Gene McNaughton, President, Growth Smart Consulting. Regarded as one of the most effective business growth experts, Gene is an accomplished consultant, public speaker, and sales trainer. Gene's 25 years experience includes spending over a decade at Gateway Computers, where he led multiple sales teams, and as vice president for the Anthony Robbins Company, where he shattered sales records for over 3 consistent years. Gene was also one of the few opening act speakers for Tony Robbins' cornerstone event, Unleash the Power Within. Before Mr. McNaughton starts his keynote speech, I would like to request the audience members to mute their microphone and post their questions in the chat box. After his speech, Mr. McNaughton will answer their questions. Now I would request Mr. McNaughton to please start his keynote speech. Sir, over to you.
All right, I am working right now to show my slides, and can everybody see my slides?
No, sir, you just need to press the show screen button. There is a show screen button which you need to just press.
Yeah, for some reason, it's not allowing me to show screen. Why? All right, 1 second. Good afternoon, everybody. I've done about 100 webinars in the last 3 months. At this one moment, it's not allowing me to show what I want to show for visuals. Okay, phone call, sharing webcam, always in front.
Just below the
Is
webcam
there-
is the show screen.
Pardon?
Just below the webcam, show webcam is your show screen thing. So, or just on the right side of it is the show screen.
Okay, I see that. And bear with us, everybody. I do have some great content to share with you. Oh, that was my webcam. Are you seeing anything right now? It looks better.
No, it is not coming, sir. Your screen is not coming. Your webcam is
Okay.
there. We can see you, but not your screen.
Okay. We're sharing webcam. Oh my goodness. Well, what we may do is I may show this presentation without visuals. This is bizarre. Phone call audio. Okay. Like that. Now we got full screen. Everybody can see me, right?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right. What we may have to do is do this without the slides, and maybe I can send the slides when we're done.
So can you share your PPT with whose mail ID you have so that we can share it from here?
Or can you make me the presenter?
Yes, I have made you the presenter. You're the presenter right now.
Okay.
I'm just changing that status and just.
Okay, I'm gonna give the presenter back to you, and will you give it back to me one more time?
Okay, so I'm just doing the needful, sir. Just a minute, allow me.
Thank you. As everybody can see, while we're doing this, it's dark where I am in the United States. But it's good. I was in bed early last night. I went through preparatory work.
Sir, did you get a request?
Show my screen.
This place.
Play. Are you seeing it?
No, somehow or the other your screen is not coming, sir. Can you kindly mail me your PPT so that I can show it from here?
Yes, absolutely.
You can mail it to, I will just send you the mail, my mail in your chat box, my mail ID.
Okay.
You kindly, do you find the chat box?
Yeah, I'm, yes.
I'm just sending a chat.
This is very odd, and I don't know if it's because if we're
Did
on.
you find my email ID, sir, in the chat box?
Yeah, got it.
Then kindly email me so that I can play it from here. No problems with that.
All right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to email it because it's 100 and some megabytes. Okay, there's video. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being strong here. Grab something to drink, and we will make sure you have these visual aids. All right, it's on its way. Never had this happen, friends. My apologies.
So I'm just waiting for the mail, sir. Once I get the mail, I will just share the PPT.
It came via mail drop.
So if the PPT came by a mail, sir, can you kindly forward that? I can just immediately download it then.
Yes, it's been sent.
Showing. Okay. Just a minute. Most probably your screen is showing now. Yeah, your screen has come, sir.
Hey.
You're absolutely done now. Your screen is there. We can see it. Gaining the interview edge.
Thank you for your patience, everybody. I'm going to go big screen here. And how are we looking?
Yes.
Everybody see this okay?
Absolutely.
Is that a yes?
Yes, absolutely yes. Gaining the interview edge.
All right, let's begin. And hey, the good news is people are still coming on, so it's always good to show up. First of all, good afternoon, and I must say my name is Gene McNaughton, and it's early morning where I am right now, and I'm completely excited to be here to share some insights with you. You know, after 32 years of being in the job market and running companies, building companies, and literally interviewing, hiring thousands of people, in some cases making terrible hiring decisions because I was never taught how to interview when I became a manager and a leader, to learning how to make great decisions and choose the right candidates for the right jobs that went on to prosper. And that's what we're going to talk about today for a few minutes. Most of all, I want to congratulate everybody for being here right now. One of the biggest pieces of life is just showing up. And the fact that you're on this session and there's going to be other amazing speakers and amazing insight and amazing content coming through the rest of this conference is very important. And what I want to invite you to consider is this: if you're going to be here, be here. And what that means is, while there's many things going on your computers and in your lives and in the surrounding areas, that, you know, insight, learning from experts, learning from people who've done what it is you're trying to do, taking notes, addressing your skill sets so that you can use the knowledge of others to go out and create the life and the business, the career, everything it is you want is available to you. What I find with one of the biggest challenges is that most people are not seeking counsel, looking for others for advice, being comfortable in asking. So these sessions, these conferences you're on are so important to the growth, regardless if you're a hiring leader right now, if you're a student or somebody that's looking to take their career to the next level, you're in the right place. So great job. And I want to acknowledge everybody for showing up. The other thing is I realize that it does take a special person to show up to these things. You know, if you study the habits and patterns of anybody who's been successful, whatever you deem success to be, right? But if you study their habits and patterns, is this: it takes a special person to show up to conferences like these. and carve out time out of their lives. I'm sure you've got a million other things you can do, but to invest in yourself. It takes a special person to read a book. It takes a special person to listen to something on audio, maybe a podcast or an audio book, or buy somebody's program. It takes a special person to show up to events. But one thing I know for sure, it's the people that show up, the people that participate and play full out, like really listen to the experts. Because my friends, if I was with you right now, let me ask you one question. How many ideas does it take to make a radical shift in your career? How many ideas does it take? Now, hopefully, because I can't see everybody, you're saying, well, one. Yes, that is true. If you just got one thing out of what I'm going to say, or what some of the other experts are going to say, or when there's group panelist discussions and you ask that question in the chat box, if you just get the answer to one question, you've made significant advancements in your career. So let's get started. I want to dive into something called gaining the interview edge. Now this, what I'm going to talk about, is going to be super helpful whether you're on the side of you are a recruiter, you're a manager, you're a leader, you're a teacher, and you are looking for great talent. And this is going to greatly help you if you're somebody that is in the job seeking side of life. You're deciding where you're going to go, you've just graduated, you're unhappy where you are, and you want a new beginning. This is going to help you. So grab your pen and let's take some great notes. Here we go. Now, part of the reason, how did I get here? Where did this guy, Gene McNaughton, come from? And if you're on LinkedIn and you haven't connected to me yet, please do, because I'm always putting great insight and information, whether it's sales or it's marketing or it's negotiation. I'm always putting education-based content on one of my favorite channels, which is LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, are main ones. But that's how this organization found me, because I was putting out great educational content. And some of it stemmed from my book, which has become a best-selling book around the world, most notably here in the United States. And it's a sales book, but really what it is a mindset book. But before anything happens, while we're doing this, make sure you're connected to me on LinkedIn so that you can get these insights. And you never know when one thing you read can change your life. I've attended a lot of conferences where I learned nothing, but then I attended one conference where it changed everything. I've read a lot of books that I got some good information from, but then I read that book that changed my life, changed how I thought, changed my course of direction, gave me some usable, actionable tools that I could take into my job to progress in the job. So why are we here? Regardless of where you are in life, isn't it true that we can all get even better than we are? Isn't it true that even if you're playing at a level 10 and life is amazing, one of the things you find when you work with majorly successful people, people that have made it with family and material things and money and they're happy, the one thing I find about those folks is that they're always in pursuit of going to the next level. Where does real happiness come from? In my experience, it comes from progress, learning things, doing new things, getting out of your comfort zone and creating something new in your life. So why are we here? I'm hoping you're going to get one of those insights. Maybe you're going to get a dozen, but I want to make sure you're writing things down. So here's how we're going to get started. If I'd see you right now, I'd say, are you ready? Hopefully you are. But here's what it goes down to. In my opinion, to win the job or the career of your dreams, you have to learn to sell yourself in the most persuasive and compelling way possible. I've had many interviewers come to me seeking a job. They were fresh out of college. They had the most amazing resume I could ever see. Straight A student. I don't know how your grading systems work there, but that's as good as it gets here. They're straight A's and they won awards in school. In many cases, they had part-time jobs. And I'm so excited to interview them. And they get to the interview and it's just like, Like I didn't have rapport with the person. You know, they were kind of slouched in their chair. They weren't prepared. They didn't show up early. Yet I've had other interviews where maybe the resume didn't look so good, but the person showed up and their shoulders were back, and they studied my company and they looked me up on LinkedIn. They knew things about me. They showed that they were hungry to come and work at the company I was running. They said they would do anything. They would take coaching, that they wanted to be successful. They wanted to advance. So how does it work that way? Somebody with the perfect resume, I don't hire. Somebody with a okay resume, not so great grades, but they show up in a different way than the other person. I hire this person and she goes on to be a star in the company. How does that happen? Well, the person was never taught how to interview. The one that didn't get the job was never taught sales. They were never taught persuasion. They were never taught influence. And those are some of the mistakes that I see all the time. Now, this is normally a highly interactive exercise, but I want to make sure everybody's engaged. So what I'd like you to do right now, sit up in your chair with some energy. I know, come on, you can do it, but just move your body a little bit. I'm going to have you go through this exercise. And what I'd like you to do is add these numbers up out loud. Now, there's a point to all this, but I want you to say the answers in your head. Are you ready? Now, I can't see you, so I'm waiting for you to go, yes, Gene, I'm ready. Okay, you're going to add these numbers up. So if I say, what is 1,000 plus 40? You should be saying out loud, 1,040. And if you said that, you are correct. I'm going to give you more numbers and I want you to add these. Now, normally when I'm in a live event, I can hear the audience yelling these numbers out. So play along with me. Remember I talked about what winners do? They play full out. You can listen passively to get to this and get nothing out of it. If you're listening and writing notes, you're going to get something out of it. But if you play full out, you get fully engaged, you are going to get way more out of this. So 1,000 plus 40 is what? Plus 1,000 is what? Plus 30 is what? Plus 1,000 is what? Plus 20 is what? Plus 1,000 is what? Plus 10 is what? Plus 0 is what? Plus 0 is what? Plus 0 is what? Good. Now, how many of you right now are yelling 5,000? I know we've got some engineers on here. You may have got this right. But what most people do in a live audience, they'll be screaming, it's 5,000. And some of you may be looking at me now saying, Gene, it's 5,000. Let me replay this. So are you saying 4,090 plus 10 equals 5,000? Did you get that right? Or are you getting my point? Now, what you can do is if I say, so why did this happen? If you were somebody that yelled 5,000, why did that happen? Now, some of you got it right, but when I do live events and I have clients that are in engineering, I have clients in accounting, I have business professional clients, I have college students that are getting their first job that come to my trainings, and I have men and women that are over 50 that have been in their professional career for more than 30 years. And 95% of people get this wrong. Why? It looks like I can't see anything in the chat box. So I'm going to give you the answers that I normally get. One is people say, well, it was herd mentality. The other one is somebody said, I didn't have my calculator. Ha ha. And the other one was people said, we fell into a pattern. And that is the correct answer. You ever have this happen in your life where you're doing something unconsciously, meaning without intent? And that could be language patterns. It could be how you communicate with somebody. It could be using persuasion skills, what you have right now, or not using it. It could be having a conversation and going, because you're not thinking about it. You ever have that happen? You see, there's a radical difference between being conscious in your communication and being unconscious. I'm going to give you an example. A lot of people ask me this question: what is the ultimate power as it relates to the interview process? And I'm going to give you a metaphor. How many of you that are watching right now have ever played a video game with a child? Or if you're in your teens watching this now, or you're younger, how many of you have invited your parent to play a video game, like an Xbox or something that's more difficult for some of us people that are over 45 years old? Well, what happened? My 10-year-old's playing on his Xbox. This is 10 years ago, right? He's 20 years old this year. And I walk by and he says, "Dad, come on over, come play." And I said, "Sure, I'll come play, son." And you know, I was 42 years old at that time, and I grew up being pretty good at games like Pac-Man and Galaga and Gorf, for those of you that remember that, Atari. And he handed me this controller that had like 10 buttons on it. And I'm like, what do? I'd never seen a controller like that. I was used to a single controller with a red button. And if you're over 40 years old, you understand what I'm talking about here. Then we're playing this shooting game, and he says, "Just shoot the ones in the red, shoot the bad guys, let the good guys go by." And I try to shoot, and sure enough, I'm out of the game in 20 seconds. Then my 10-year-old takes over, and he's got this controller in hand, and he already knew in advance what was coming, where the extra points were, what not to shoot, when it came time between screens where he had the bonus round. And 20 minutes later, while he's sitting there drinking his lemonade, he racks up great points, and he sits there and laughs at me. And I thought, this is interesting. I'm a college graduate, 42 years old, have been in the professional world for 20 years. And how is it that a 10-year-old can take me to the school on a video game? Well, it's not because he's more intelligent, is it? He understood the patterns of the game. I didn't. He was able to anticipate what was going to happen in the game. And how do you do that? Repetition, right? If you have passion about something, you learn some skills, and then you do them repeatedly over and over again. That is the only road to improvement in anything. You read about it, you demonstrate it, you practice it, you do it, then you have coaching or independent counsel to coach you up, per se. But the number one important skill set, anticipation, that's where power is. Now, friends, here's how it works. To be able to recognize these, to be able to anticipate, you've got to recognize patterns. And that's what I'm going to lay out for you today. But here's how the process goes. And here's why what you're going through here in these next couple days can be so hugely important to your future success, everything, your future family, your income, where you live, how you live, could come out of these next 2 days. But the first step is you've got to be able to recognize that patterns exist. Friends, patterns exist in every area of your life. You have a pattern of what you do in the morning when you wake up, and so does everybody around you. You have a pattern of how you drive somewhere if you've been there a whole bunch of times. And if you become conscious that life is a series of patterns, if, you know, at this stage in my career, I've worked in or consulted so many companies, by this stage, I would have to be an idiot not to be able to go into any business and see the patterns that are working, the patterns that are not, so that I personally can come in and change those patterns. So first, you recognize that patterns are everything. The second thing is when you learn something new, you've got to be able to put it into utilization. You're going to learn some things in this conference, and hopefully you're going to be taking notes in a journal or somewhere where you can keep it, or on your phone or your tablet, so that you can come back to these great notes that you're going to hear from all these great experts. But you've got to be willing to change your behavior. If you're not getting the outcome that you want, get the information, utilize it, and change your behavior. And what happens over the course of time is that you begin to create the patterns that you want. It's incontrovertible, and it happens to all of us. So moving into today's content, here's my belief. It's never been more important for you to be strategic in your communication, specifically as it relates to your interview strategy and position. I want to give you a quick view of when I interview at this stage in my career for somebody in sales, marketing, management, leadership. And I want to help everybody understand the pattern that I've gotten to. Now, after interviewing and hiring thousands of people, and I've been doing this for 30 years, I have an interview process that looks like this, but I want you, regardless of where you are, if you're the interviewer or the interviewee, to understand the process that I use. First of all, by the time a candidate gets to me as the leader, I'm going to have a very fast and short interview. I call it a speed interview. I want to understand can I weed this person out? And do they have the strength to stand up to tough objections? Now, most of what I'm hiring for are going to be sales, marketing, advertising, and customer service roles. But I know that when I have a lot of candidates for one job, I need to understand who are the people that are hungry enough that really want this job, that aren't just showing up for the interview with a great resume. Because I'm looking for people that are hungry. I'm looking for people that are coachable. I'm looking for people that want to learn and want to grow. And the odds are any company that you're considering going to work for are looking for the same thing. They may not articulate it that way, but that's what they're looking for. Somebody that's going to be a great employee, that's going to be a great contributor, that's going to be fun to be around. So when I interview, my first objective is to weed the person out. Then I build a little rapport, and here are the things that I ask. I'm going to go through this quick, but I want you to understand the patterns of the interviewer. And if you're an interviewer, maybe you can learn from this. The very first question I ask out of the chutes is, tell me how much you know about my company. Now, that seems like a pretty easy question, but you would be surprised at about 70 to 80% of the people I interview haven't even looked up my company online, haven't even studied the history of my company, don't even know what it is we do. And in my mind, that's an automatic, they're done. Those interviews literally last 15 minutes. If they can't say they know what we do, the space we're in, they know the customers we serve, they've read some of our success stories, doesn't matter what company I'm in, I ask the same question. But if they're not somebody that's going to show they can take 10 minutes and do some research online, on LinkedIn, on Google, on whatever search engine, not for me. So if you're an interviewer, do your research. Now, you can do this stuff in the parking lot while you're waiting for the interview. There's no excuse. There is zero excuse to go into an interview unprepared to know about the company. Secondly, I want to know why they applied for the role they applied for. This is the first step for that person to be able to sell themselves. Third, I let them know this. I have a lot of applicants for this job. Tell me what makes you different. I want to see how well they can communicate and sell themselves. Fourth, this is the big home run one, and everybody that's going through interviews right now, and if you want to land that ideal job, you better be able to say why that company should hire you. What makes you different? Why does it matter? How is your experience going to help that manager or that company achieve their goals? That's what sales is all about. Sometimes people think, well, I'm not in sales, I'm going to be an engineer. Well, my friend, if you want to be successful, you've got to learn how to communicate. And to do that, you've got to communicate consciously. And then in some cases, if somebody's done a great job, I'll go to interview question number 5, and I'll say, give me your opinion on the 3 biggest keys to success in this job. Even if it's a college student that's just graduating, if they don't understand the role, if they don't have passion for what it is I'm about to hire them to do, they usually don't work out. Now, there's times when they do work out over the course of time, but in most cases, if they can't say a person in this job needs to be highly organized, they need to understand the job knowledge, and they need to be coachable. If somebody can't come back and answer the question that way for me, then it's usually a red flag to say they didn't prepare, and I don't know how well they're going to do when they get into the real world in dealing with employees, dealing with fellow workers, dealing with customers, dealing with executives, putting together reports. So as an interviewer, you've got to be ready. These are questions that you should have written down, and you should have canned answers if you want the role of your life, if you want the dream job that some people call it. Some would say, well, it's just too hard to get an interview, Gene, or there's a lot of competition out there, and the excuse of it's not what you know and it's who you know, right? These have been around forever. And all these are excuses. I can tell you the people that prepare the best are the ones that are successful the most. So these are some of your biggest challenges. And the other one is this road of sameness. And as you watch my screen, I call this the interview trap. If you're in process right now, as we come out of COVID, things are starting to open up in the United States, certainly. I want to make sure you don't fall into this interview death trap, which says, send your resume and wait for the call. If this is a company you really want to work at, pick up the phone and make the call. If this is a company you really want to work at, get on LinkedIn, look up the people that you would be working with or around, and start direct messaging them. It is not that hard to do this, yet nobody does it. Don't wait for a phone call. Be proactive. Second, the other one is only relying on your resume. By the time you get that interview, that's your first shot. You've got to be prepared to go nail it. Be prepared to answer the questions I just showed you on the previous slide. And the last one, if you just prepare to answer questions, it doesn't put you in the best position. You might be going, Gene, what else is there? Well, I'm going to lay out some things that you can do that will cause you, and if you choose to do it, will cause you to radically stand out. And this is called the iron triangle. Now, what I would say is, you really want to go get that. There's that great company that's in your city that you admire, and you're going to go work there. So what is the best way to do this? Number one, have proactive behavior. That means reaching out, finding out who is the hiring manager, who is the leader of the division. Do you know anybody who knows that person, which you can find out on LinkedIn, sending a direct message, making a phone call. In most cases, you can do this, and in most cases, nobody does it. The key is they're looking for what is the difference that makes the difference in you. So have proactive behavior. Secondly, come prepared to ask great questions. Almost every interview is going to end with, what questions do you have for me? And you know what 9 out of 10 people say is, what's the pay? Or, something just unthought through. But you've got to come prepared to ask questions. I'm going to lay those out here in the next 5 minutes. And you've got to do more than just your resume. Great cover letters, a great interview, proactive behavior, asking the right questions in the right order, because most people don't do that. Most professional salespeople don't even do that. But I want you to write this down if you're taking notes, is that the premium job that you want requires you to have a premium story. Let's talk for 5 minutes here about keys to selling yourself. And as you noticed in my book, the book is called The Sales Edge. I've got a copy right here, and I'm not trying to sell you my book. That's not what it's about. But the edge is, people think it's just getting an edge, like a mental edge. EDGE is a very specific acronym to have a flow and a strategy of going into a sales meeting. Now, you can have a flow and a strategy of going into an interview process. Another thing I want you to write down, and if you want to get something out of this, write this down and remember this forever. Average people have great questions. I'm sorry, average people have great answers. Winners have great questions. Most people prepare for an interview to answer the questions that they picked up off some website online or on Google, on Twitter. Very few people come in prepared to ask questions, intelligent questions that gets the interviewer going, wow, where'd this person come from? So you've got to have a roadmap in order to have the right questions in the right order. And what is always true is that the strategist in life always beats the tactician. People that have a plan before something happens far out succeed people that just go in without a plan. That seems pretty obvious. Seems like common sense, but you would find when you get out there, that in many cases, common sense is not so common. You need a process to prepare yourself to be the winning candidate. You need a process to help you be different. You need a process to help you stand out from the crowd. You need a process that helps you decide if you want to work for that company. And here's the process. I'm going to walk through it really quick. Take great notes on this. I know this is being recorded, but something happens when you write things down to your internal memory. Research shows that retention increases when you actually write and you see and you listen. So make sure you're doing it. EDGE is an acronym for an order of questions that you can ask. Now, I'm going to show it to you really quickly on what I teach sellers how to do this. And then I'm going to show you how you can use this in your next interview. So if you walk in with a roadmap and you think, okay, I got to educate myself on the company. I got to understand their gap, develop their gap. I got to create a greater gap. What does it look like down the road if I'm successful? And I need to connect to them to an emotion, to a story, educate them on a story of how my background and skill sets will help their company be successful. Let me show you how this works. I want to remind you of one more thing. You will be judged more by the level and quality of the questions you ask versus your deep knowledge of your resume. Now, most of you have prepared to be able to recite your resume in the classes you took and what your grades are. That is helpful, but it's not going to push everything over the edge. What's going to push you over the edge is the intelligence you display through the level and the quality of the questions you ask. So in the EDGE process, if you are in sales, I'd say the first thing is you've got to educate yourself on the other person, on the other company. So I'm going to show you this quickly, how it works in sales. What I tell sellers is you got to understand the who and the what, the where, the why, and the how. You got to understand what that prospect wants to do. Where are they now? What's their current situation? How soon do they want to do something? For salespeople, and I'm going to show you this as it relates to being an interviewer here in a little bit. I'm going to radically shift everything you do from this day forward. Sellers are taught to develop a gap, right? If there's no gap between where a prospect wants to be and their ultimate goal, then there's going to be no sale. So you say, well, what could be better about your situation? What kind of problems are you experiencing? What don't they like about the situation? What are they not happy about? When you find something, you use words like, tell me more. How could your situation be better? What problems does this cause you? What are you doing now to solve this? And in sales, if there's no gap, there's no sale. But once you find that an organization or a person has a problem, it's still not time to start selling and pitching, because there's another level that master persuaders and influencers go to, which is called take people to the future, because the future is an awesome force. So you'd ask somebody, what does it mean to have this solution in place and it's working properly? How does that help your company? Imagine 6 months from now and this system that you've bought, or imagine 6 months from now you've hired me and I've been wildly successful. What does that look like? Right? The word imagine is so powerful because we can imagine anything. Imagine if I was there live right now in your living room. Would this experience be different? Hopefully people are saying, please no, please no. But I can, if I have rapport with you, I can get you to imagine anything. So you could also help people imagine the future as if they didn't happen. What would happen if you didn't solve this problem? If you don't solve this problem, what other problems will happen? What would be the impact? What will it mean long term? And in sales, I teach that you've always got to have an emotional connection. This is your secret selling weapon. Anybody who buys something, anybody who is going to hire you, one of the first things they want to do is make a safe decision. They don't want to make a decision that embarrasses them and hurts their career. So you've got to think about making it safe for the company and the interviewer to hire you. So it's radically different. What I say there is called a feature or a product dump. When you say, well, I've gotten straight A's in school, I've gotten the degree in the field that you're hiring for, and therefore I'm your best candidate. That's not going to get the job done. That's called a feature dump. The story, and I'm going to talk to you about stories here, is what's going to make the difference. How does what you've been through in life, things you've done in a leadership role, maybe it's sports or music or debate, Maybe it's something you've done in your neighborhood. Maybe it's clubs you've joined while you were younger. But what is the story that has gotten you to where you are to win this job? Here's why stories are important, is because our brains are wired to listen to stories. In other words, who else like them have had issues and challenges? Why did they choose you? What'd you do for them? How are you benefiting? Now, this is what I would teach sellers. And lastly, you got to have, through this emotional connection, you got to provide them visual aids. So let me take this quickly and apply it to interview preparation. So you got a very short handle of what I teach in my book and what I've been doing and demonstrating and now teaching professionally to companies all over the world. So let's apply the EDGE process towards your interview preparation. So first step in the interview preparation is this: you've got to educate yourself on the company you're going to see. Friends, there is no excuse not to do this. It's on your phone, it's on your computer. If you don't have a phone and computer, which is possible, I don't know how you'd be watching this, but if it's possible, you've got resources within your school. There is something that's going to be able to allow you to do this. In other words, if you don't do this, then I would look at a candidate who didn't do this as just lazy. When I ask that first question, tell me how much you know about my company, and somebody doesn't have a quick answer ready to go, I have emotionally automatically disqualified them. Doesn't matter what role I'm hiring for, right? That's how important this is. Do some company research. It's very easy to look them up. Everybody's got a web page. Go to their about, look at their awards and accolades, understand what they do. You can go to the website, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Those are my favorites, but I'm sure you've got your favorites too. Just don't mistake the fact that the information is everywhere, that people are actually looking at it. Do you know anybody in this company that you can call in advance to ask questions? LinkedIn is a great tool for that, because oftentimes when you're on LinkedIn, it'll say, if you're looking to know one person, it'll show what friends you mutually have in common. When you're going to get interviewed, ask who specifically is going to interview you and look them up on LinkedIn. You'll be amazed at how many things you can find when you look for it. And I call it the 3-fact rule. When I'm going to meet somebody I haven't met and I look them up on LinkedIn, or I look them up on Google, or if there's somebody that's on their company's webpage, I'm looking for 3 interesting things about that person. Maybe it's where they graduated college. Maybe it's a hobby they're passionate about. Maybe it's a school they went to that has a specific team, like a sports team, or a city they live in that may have a specific sports team. But if you look for a couple minutes, you can find, most people will post awards, accolades. You can look at their career progression within that company. It's all right there, yet very few people do it. You want to do something different that causes you to stand out. Do 10 minutes of research on the company you're going into. Step 2 in your research questions is, what's their gap? Why are they, if you're a student that's going for the first job, you got to understand that hiring is a difficult process and it's an expensive process. You have to have people involved in human resources. You got to write the ad. You've got to accept the candidates. You've got to read the resumes. And anybody who does that, you know what I'm talking about here. It's not just super easy. It's time consuming, right? You got to weed through the candidates. You got to call the ones to tell them no, or you got to move the good ones to the second interview, the third interview. Then you got company protocols. It's not an easy process to hire people. So as an interviewer, you got to understand that you will stand out by understanding why they're hiring for this role. Here's some great questions that you can ask. Write these down. Why are you hiring? Why is this job open? Now, it could be one of 2 things. They're growing and expanding, great. Or there was somebody in the job that didn't cut it. Wouldn't that be helpful to know? Here's some other great questions. What are the goals of this role? Here's another one. Tell me about someone, a new hire like me, that's been very successful. What were their traits and behaviors? Great question. Another great question. Has anyone ever failed at this role? Why? Now, what happens is when you get the answers to these questions and when it comes time for you to wrap up the interview and sell yourself, and if you've written the answer to these questions down, you're going to be able to sell yourself in a way that is customized to that person you're talking about. Is everybody getting this? Has anyone ever failed at this role? Well, yes, they have. Can you tell me why? Well, they just didn't have the discipline. Didn't have enough discipline? Tell me more. What do you mean? Give me some examples. Right? Now you can understand why the job is being interviewed for. And if somebody tells you that and it's in your why should I hire you final question, you say, look, I'm a very disciplined person, right? They've given you the keys to the kingdom. Here's the bottom line, my friends, as I get ready to wrap up. By understanding the goals of the role and the challenges with other employees, you can better position yourself. However, if they tell you this, now is not the right time to say, and that's why you should hire me, because you want to create a greater gap. This is what moves people. Write this down, my friends. The future is an awesome force. So here's some other great questions you can ask. Remember, the quality of your questions are going to help you stand out. Here's a great question. What has to happen for you to consider me a wild success 6 months from now? Now, here's what most people are going to say. They're going to go, wow, that's a great question, because it is a great question. And then you use that word imagine. They say, well, you've got to be disciplined. You got to hit all of your key performance indicators. You've got to be a good team player, and you've got to be coachable. And you say, imagine that I'm even better than that. What do you think is possible? Right? And they're going to say again, good question. So there's something called an implied future. What could happen in the future if I'm majorly successful? Or what could happen in the future if you hired the wrong person for this job? What does that really mean? Now, anybody who runs a company that's on this right now, anybody who's an interviewer knows that hiring the wrong person is expensive. Exiting somebody is painful and expensive, right? It's not like in TV and in the movies, you know, hey, you're fired. It doesn't work that way. It's a long, arduous, difficult, well thought through process. Now, bear with me on this one. What I would say in the United States, referring to our United States favorite sport of baseball, is what has to happen for me to hit a home run? Now, last night when I was doing a little bit of research, I'm like, okay, cricket's the #1 sport in India. And I said, what is the equivalent of a home run in cricket? And the answer was hit a 6. Now, I could be wildly off, but if you said, what has to happen for me to hit a 6 in this job? In other words, what has to happen for me to perform at the highest level possible? Most people will chuckle at that. However, you're helping them think of something down the road. What could be the impact of my success? If I do really well, what does this mean to the company? And here's another great one. Let's imagine that I'm super successful. What's my logical next step in my career path at this company? Remember, as an interviewer, you're also interviewing the company. It's unlikely you're going to want a job that the first job you get is there's no progression, there's no next step. You know, some people have aspirations to move into management and leadership. Some people have career goals of moving into maybe training or organizational leadership. But you're interviewing that company as well. Don't forget that. And here's the last one, round of creating an emotional connection. Now you've gone through your interview, they've asked questions, you're prepared to ask great questions. Now it's time for you to gain an emotional connection. And this is where you've got to learn how to share your story, more than just a resume. You got to remember, anybody interviewing you wants to make a safe decision. They want to make the right hiring decision so that you come on board, you get good company training, and you go perform above average. Of course, they want you to perform at a superstar level, but they need to know that you have the real experience that they're looking for. Remember, I talked earlier about you say, as you can see on my resume, I have gotten straight A's in all my classes, right? That's called a feature dump. I want you to tell a story. Remember, the brain is wired to listen to stories. Your key strategy is to be able to match up what you've learned in school, what you've learned in life, what you've learned in other jobs you've had, maybe part-time jobs, what you've learned in organizations you've joined. Have you had leadership roles? How is your experience going to apply to that role in that company to help that role in that company be better? You've got to be able to tell that story. Where have your similar experiences? Here's a great role play example. The interviewer says, well, you need to be able to handle multiple projects. Your response would be like this: I'm glad you said that. Well, I was at my prior job and in university, I had to handle multiple projects. In doing this, I learned that time management and goal setting was very important. So that's a very simple way. Now, you may not say those exact words, but it's a very simple way to respond. You say, what's it going to take to be successful in this role? You've got to be able to handle multiple projects. You say, I'm glad you said that. While I was in school, I also worked 2 jobs and I helped my grandmother. I had to handle multiple projects, and in doing this, I learned the skill of time management. Doesn't that sound like something that is could be true, whatever your situation is, but it ties into the desire and the want of the person doing the interviewing. This is why you've got to be comfortable selling yourself. And it doesn't mean standing up and, you know, what traditional and what we think of sales. It just means having intelligence in your communication. In the emotional connection, stories. Be able to take your experience, whatever it is your magic secret sauce is, and share that in a story form as why it's going to help you be a successful employee for that company. And you've got to have these memorized. Write down, think about some of the things you've done, because you've all done it, that are special. Maybe there's a skill that you've mastered, music, riding a skateboard, but there's something in some things that you're really good at. And what did it take for you to do that? Because if you can get good at anything, you can get good at anything else, because you understand the pattern of what good looks like, right? Study it, practice it, do it in a real environment, course adjust. You can understand that. Last thing I want to wrap up with before we go to Q&A is, and I know we started a little bit late, is this. I want you to always remember this, my friends. You will get rewarded in public for the things you practice the most in private. And I want to make sure and honor everybody who's put the work into putting this series on, this webinar conference, because they're doing it out of service. And I promise you that if you listen to all the experts they're bringing on and you take great notes and you have an open mind, that it's going to be one of the things that helps you grow the very fastest. All right. And I'm ready to wrap up. That was my conclusion. All right, there's everybody. I have no audio.
It was really a wonderful session, Mr. Jean. Professor Shatabdi, you can kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, sir, I have unmuted myself. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir, I've got a couple of questions here. I will read them out to you. So, Shomini Mujumdar madam is asking how to bring passion, and does passion always needs to be on a popular idea?
Okay, say that one more time.
It's a question from Shomini Mujumdar madam. She's asking how to bring passion. Does passion always needs to be on a popular idea?
How to bring passion? Well, the answer is yes. And anybody who's interviewed others, you can see those that come in that really want to have that role, that really want to work in that company, that really want to have the job that they're doing. And you know what I find is I get passionate about the things that I really like to do. I don't think you can fake passion. If somebody wants to come in and do something in any company, it's going to show in their energy. Now, a couple things you can do is be physically and emotionally prepared before the interview, right? Passion is something that we feel before we see. You can tell it. You know, here's some small examples of somebody that has passion for an interview. They show up early. That's a great example. They have their resume printed. They've done their research on the company. They've done research on me. To me, those would be 4 clear signals that this person is passionate about the role. So you may be having a bad day, because I think we all have those bad days. But you keep it simple and say, look, I really want this job. So what can I do? I can show up early. I can put on a good sport coat, you know, put on my best clothes. I can have my resume printed off. I can have testimonials and references printed off. I can take 10, 15 minutes and do research on the company. I can take 5 minutes and do research on the person that's interviewing me. I can be pleasant to the person that lets me in the door of the building and say please and thank you. I mean, these are little things, but after doing this for 30 years, you'll be surprised at how often people don't do it. Next question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So the next question is from Mr. Simon Sarkar. He's asking, which is the most important trait one should possess while giving an interview?
What is the most important trait? And what's the last piece?
Which is the most important trait one should possess while giving an interview? A trait in a person.
Okay, what's the most important trait while giving an interview?
Yes, I think so. That's what his question is.
Okay.
His question is while appearing for the interview, which is the most important trait? I believe that is the question. Yes.
Excellent.
Simon Sarkar. Okay.
When appearing for the interview, I think I've laid this out. And by the way, this is just my opinion, everybody. There's different opinions. I've been doing this. The most important trait is I will know if the person wants the job based on their preparation. Secondly, if the person is asking me great questions. So when I interview, I'm pretty aggressive because my time is just like everybody else. Time is so precious. And when you're running a business, you don't have a lot of time to, what I used to do when I'd interview people even if I wasn't going to hire them, I would interview them for an hour. And I would talk about why my company is great and how passionate I am. And then I get to the end of the interview and I'd say, yeah, that's probably not the right candidate. And I'm like, why did I just spend a full hour of my day where I did most of the talking and I still didn't hire that person? So that's why I started this 15-minute interview. Now I do those interviews over the phone. So by the time somebody gets to me, they have a phone conversation and I say, how much do you know about my company? How much do you know about me? How much do you know about this role? Who else have you talked to? And if they haven't done that homework, then I'm like, thank you. And I've just saved myself 45 minutes. If they have, then I'm going to take the interview further and I'm going to get to their questions sooner. What questions do you have for me? Because I want to understand. Now I'm hiring a lot for sales and leadership roles. Have they thought this through? So, by the way, for most of you out there, do all the little things that you're probably being taught right now. Print the resume out, show up early, look nice, do research, have your questions laid out. I'm sure you're hearing this. It just amazes me that most people don't do this. That alone will help you stand out. Next question.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Kul Afsha Madam. She's asking, if the interviewer asks, what are your goals after 5 years? Which is the appropriate answer to such a question?
What are your goals after 5 years?
Yes.
Okay,
that's
great.
The question.
That's a good one. So somebody says, what are your goals after 5 years? Here's how I would answer that. I would say it depends on what's possible within your company. I would then say, imagine that I am a top performer in this role. What's my next step? And they'd say, well, if you do good in this role, then you would move to management. Great. Now let's imagine that I'm great at management. What's the next step? Well, you'd move to director. Wow, that's great. And let's imagine now it's 4 years and I've been the greatest director ever. What's my next step? You move to president. Great. Right? That's a trick question because they want to know, and it depends on what the interviewer is asking, but it's a trick question. 5 years, you say, well, 5 years, you know, most people say, I want to be making 20% more in money. So that could be the wrong answer, a trick answer. But if you don't know what the next steps are within the organization, then you've got to ask. Now, you could say, 5 years from now, I want to own my own company and I'm going to move to another country. Or somebody says, I don't even know what my 5 years are. Those are red flags for the interviewer. I would not answer them that way. Well, in 5 years, who knows? I don't set 5-year goals. That could disqualify you. They want somebody that's setting goals. You can just turn it quickly around and say, well, let's imagine that I'm wildly successful in this job. How fast can I get promoted and what's that next step? Nobody's asking them that question. All right, next question.
This is going to be the last question. So Prithanasta madam is asking, if I would like to ask an interviewer a question, does it shows any aggressiveness on my part?
Not at all. Not at all. However, it depends on the nature of the interviewer itself. There are going to be scenarios where an interviewer comes in, and we've got a lot of people that are on the interviewer side that are going to be on this panel. And that's a great question to ask. For me, when I'm interviewing somebody and they make it through the first 4 or 5 questions, I'm going to, as quickly as I can, get to them and say, you tell them, I'll say to the interviewer, what questions do you have for me? Right? Just remember everybody, the person that's asking questions is the one that's in control of the meeting. Right? And I want to see if somebody's comfortable taking control. In the very beginning, they're interviewing you, they're going to ask questions. And in most cases, for those of you that do interviews, don't you at the end of the first interview say, what questions do you have? Or what questions do you have for me? It's kind of the wrap up. And like I said, there's something called sensory acuity that says, I've got to judge the situation depending on the other person. But either way, you need to have those questions prepared. You don't want to be pushy, but if they say, what questions do you have? Say, yeah, tell me what success looks like in this role. Why is this job open? Did somebody leave the company? If they did, why? What if I'm wildly successful, what does that look like? Right? What would it, 1 year from now and I'm wildly successful, what has to happen? What would I have had to demonstrate? Those are great questions to ask. I would be pumped if somebody asked me those questions.
Okay, sir, we have got one last very interesting question. Mr. Vikas Chandra Mondal, sir, is asking how important it is to research about the activities of the competitors of the organization for success in the interview process.
Let me make sure I feed this back and understand it. How important is it to research the activities?
Yes, of the competitors of the organization for which the candidate has gone for the interview.
Oh, of the competitors.
Exactly.
Okay. I would say it's mildly important depending on the job you're going into. So if there were A priorities, research the company and the people, the company that you're going to interview at and the people that you're going to interview with. And then depending on the amount of time and the importance is who are competitor number 2 and competitor number 3. And if you're able to just say, I know you compete against company A and company B, that's going to be enough. I wouldn't spend hours trying to pour through their product line and their product set or their service set. I wouldn't necessarily do that. That's unnecessary unless you're just in a position. I know we all have a lot of extra time these days because we're not traveling as much, but I don't think it's necessary to go up and down their competitors. But if you're aware of the competitors, great.
Okay, so I hope that answers the questions, and we can wrap up the Q&A session here. Thank you, Mr. McNaughton, for this enlightening keynote speech, and it has been a privilege having you with us this evening, sir.
It's been an honor, everybody, and those of you that are out there, make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn. That's how I was invited to come and share with you, and it's my passion to be able to teach and share my experience to hopefully one day that all of you will be doing the same thing if you're not already. So that's kind of, I look at the mentors that have helped me, and one of the things they all said, it's your job now to go, pass the best of everything you've learned on to others. So hopefully I've done that today.
Thank you, sir.
Are we good?
So now I would like to introduce the panel discussion on the theme, Life with COVID, Working Etiquettes and Skills Required in Industry. So let me introduce the esteemed members of the panel. Mr. Ashish Kakre is the founder of HR Shapers and the panel moderator for this discussion. Mr. Sharad Verma, VP and CHRO, IRIS Software Incorporated. Mr. Rajat Kapoor, Managing Director, Oil and Gas and Energy. Mr. Manoj Kumar Sharma, Head HR of Adani Electricity. Mr. Gaurav Chopra, HR Leader, Allianz. And Mr. Nand Kishore Chaudhary, Chairman and Managing Director, Jaipur and Smart. So now I would like to welcome Mr. Ashish Kakre, who is a prolific HR leader, speaker, social media influencer blogger, mentor, and coach. A postgraduate from the prestigious Symbiosis Institute, Pune, Ashish has 17 years of corporate diversified exposure to HR operations and has worked for organizations such as Capture, Loop Mobile, MTHR Global, and Cycus Infotech. He is currently the founder of HR Shapers, a non-profit leading HR association having presence in 25 countries, which aims to bring the best in knowledge sharing, learning, and networking online and offline, both on regular basis. So now I would request Mr. Ashish Kakre to start the panel discussion. Over to you, sir. Sir, you're not. Mr. Ashish Kakre, you're not audible.
Okay, let me check.
Audible now. You're audible now.
Okay, is this fine now? It's working?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Shatabdi. Your name is Shatabdi, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So it reminds me of the Shatabdi Express. Okay, nice. Thanks for nice introduction. And the earlier session was wonderful. Got a lot of insight. So we have on the screen we have three subject matter expertise, I would call it, because they are from different industries and different background. Mr. N.K. Chaudhary, if many of you don't know, Mr. N.K. Chaudhary is called Gandhi of Textile Industries. Yeah, right, sir? Okay, he's based in Jaipur and he's CMD of leading textile company. Gaurav, we already introduced. He's HR leader of Alliance, and Rajat Kapoor is there. So I will come back to other things, but yes, topic is very interesting, and we are all prepared. Since last 2 to 3 months, we have been doing only that kind of preparation that how to develop ourselves in terms of which kind of working etiquettes and which kind of skills we need to develop. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges inside, outside. Everybody is struggling. It's a new normal for everyone, whether it's a CMD, whether it's a junior level, senior level, whether it's entrepreneurship, or whether it's a school going kid, whether it's a family. So its situation is new normal for everyone. Yeah. So Before I put up some question, I just like to have some opening remark from each one of you. Let me start with Mr. N.K. Chaudhary, and then we'll go to Gaurav, then we'll come to Rajat. And meanwhile, if you other panelists joining, then we'll take the input from them. Over to Mr. N.K. Chaudhary. Yeah.
क्या मैं अपने बारे में बताऊं?
You can give some introduction on yourself, very short. Plus, what's your views on this subject and topic, and then we'll start the question answer session.
देखिए, हम लोग क्या है कि गांव में कारपेट बनाते हैं और करीब 40,000 व्यूअर्स जयपुर से 600 गांव में 5 स्टेट में जुड़े हुए हैं और करीब 40 कंट्रीज में हम लोग एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं। और जयपुर का जो बिजनेस मॉडल एक सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का बहुत यूनिक बिजनेस मॉडल माना जाता है। और कोविड के आने के बाद में मतलब ये जो कोविड की जो समस्या आई उसके लिए जब आप सवाल पूछेंगे तो मैं बताऊंगा कि किस तरह हम लोग अपने आप को इसके लिए वेल प्रिपेयर्ड कर रहे हैं।
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chaudhary. So that's quick views, and I will come to Gaurav now.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. First of all, let me thank you for having me over, and it's really a privilege being part of an elite panel of the members online today. I'm part of Allianz, and I take care of HR transformation projects and digital HR transformation for Asia Pacific for Allianz, and I probably am going to be happy to discuss about the COVID scenario, and maybe if it is something that we want to prepare ourselves for, or maybe it is something that we've already been following, but we just need to tweak our lives a little bit more. So happy to have this discussion with all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav. So that was again quick input, quick intro kind of thing. And over to Rajat. Rajat is from IL Gas and Energy Industries. Yes, Rajat.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you for having me on. Although I am from the oil and gas industry and oil man for almost 20 years, currently part of the strategy and consulting space. I head up the oil and gas practice for a specialized consulting firm. So I will be talking about more on the consulting strategy side of things and how this particular pandemic has affected us as an industry, what we are doing as consultants, as advisors, as M&A advisors to help companies assess the situation, people who are looking to sell off, people who are looking to buy, people who are looking to restructure. Even under the best of times, this was a difficult task. Given the uncertainties of the COVID scenario, it's become all the more difficult. I'll try to dwell upon how things are working out in the industry and basically the skill sets and the requirements that an M&A advisor or a strategist or a consultant needs over the next few months, perhaps the next few years, because now post-COVID is a new normal for all of us. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Rajat. Okay, so let's begin. Working etiquettes. When we say working etiquettes, we can mean it in a different way. One is, look at the infrastructure, look at the logistics, then look at the professional way you do that. Look at the surrounding, look at the premises. So feel free to cover anything which you like to cover in working etiquettes. Be professional. That can also be one of the working and the skill set which every industry is and every company, every individual is talking about. How do we think about the skill set which will meet the requirement of this new normal? I want to talk less because I want leave it up to speaker to give the insight. So here my first question goes to who's the Gandhi of textile industries, Mr. Chaudhary. So while we talk about all this, and you also talk about this is how things happening. Can you throw some light and describe some paradigm shift due to COVID in the business segment, because you are the CMD now, so you are closely watching what's happening and all. And उस हिसाब से how the customer expectation change हो गया है. and how our business is going to meet the timeline, and customer satisfaction also, because कभी डिलीवरी डिले हो रहा है और डिलीवरी आ नहीं रहा है, और उनका perhaps requirement change हो रहा है. I don't know what's happening, because you are the guy, you are the person who may be directly in touch with the customer and the market, and what's the reality at the ground level. थोड़ा शेयर करिए अपना एक्सपीरियंस सर.
देखिए, हमारा जो बिजनेस मॉडल है, तो हमारे क्या है कि बहुत सारे सेल्स ऑर्डर तो कैंसिल हो गए और कस्टमर से पेमेंट आना बंद हो गया. लेकिन हमारे बिजनेस में बिल्कुल उल्टा हुआ है कि गांव के अंदर सारी मैरिजेस बंद हो गई, जो स्कूल जाने वाले लोग स्कूल जाने बंद हो गए, और गांव से शहर में लोग जा नहीं सकते, उल्टे शहरों से लोग और गांव में आ गए. तो हमारा 25% प्रोडक्शन बढ़ गया. तो इधर बिक्री कम हो गई और प्रोडक्शन ज्यादा बढ़ गया, इसलिए सारे व्यूअर्स को हमें काम देना पड़ रहा है. अब मैं कोविड के बारे में बताऊं कि कोविड एक ड्रेस रिहर्सल है कि आने वाला समय और ज्यादा टर्बुलेंट होगा, और ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट होगा, और ज्यादा मतलब अनसर्टेन होगा. और इस दौरान हमने देखा कि कस्टमर की जो बेसिक फंडामेंटल नीड्स है उसमें बहुत बड़ा चेंज आया है, क्योंकि कस्टमरों को अपने घर पे रहने का मौका मिला, तो कस्टमाइजेशन की बहुत मांग तेजी से बढ़ रही है. मैंने इतना कस्टमाइजेशन पहले अपने पूरे जीवन में कभी नहीं देखा. दूसरा, अभी ये जो कोविड की जो समस्या है उसमें सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है कस्टमर रिलेवेंस, कि आप अपने कस्टमर के लिए कितने नजदीक हैं, आपका कस्टमर क्या चाहता है. इस वक्त रिकैलिब्रेट स्ट्रेटेजी विच ब्रिंग्स कस्टमर एंगेजमेंट. तो आप अपनी स्ट्रेटेजी को रिकैलिब्रेट करिए, और कस्टमर को एंगेजमेंट का मतलब है कि कस्टमर की जो समस्या है या कस्टमर की जो चेंजिंग नीड्स है उसको सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए ना, solve the problem not for the customer, solve the problem with the customer. The role of the technology will be the major driver in the business. अब जो टेक्नोलॉजी का रोल है वो अपनी इच्छा पे डिपेंड नहीं रह गया. टेक्नोलॉजी के बिना अब ये बिजनेस चलना बहुत मुश्किल है. मैं आपको बताऊं कि टेक्नोलॉजी का हमें इतना फायदा हुआ है कि हमारे जो दुनिया भर में एंड कंज्यूमर है, इंटीरियर डिजाइनर्स है, आर्किटेक्ट है, हमने कभी नहीं सोचा था कि वेबिनार के माध्यम से, हम जूम के माध्यम से हमारे प्रोडक्ट उनको घर बैठे दिखा पाएंगे, जिसके लिए इतनी दूर हम ट्रेवल करते थे. तो टेक्नोलॉजी बिकेम द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ द बिजनेस एंड रीइंफोर्स द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ डिलीवरी. जो रिजल्ट्स है जो कस्टमर को प्रोमिस किए हैं उसकी डिलीवरी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. एंड फ्लॉलेस एग्जीक्यूशन. एग्जीक्यूशन आप कितना अच्छी तरह, कितना क्वालिटी के साथ, कितना स्पीड से करते हैं, वो इस वक्त सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है. रीडिफाइन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. आपकी जो सप्लाई चेन है उसको रीडिफाइन कीजिए. हमारे लंदन में जानने वाले हैं, उन्होंने मेरे को बताया कि लंदन की एक बहुत अच्छी वहां की फेमस चेन स्टोर है, तो जब कोविड हुआ तो उनके सारे रेस्टोरेंट बंद हो गए. तो उनके मालिक ने, उनके फाउंडर ने एक बार अपने बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कस्टमर को टेलीफोन किया. तो कस्टमर ने बोला कि हम तो आपके खाने को मिस कर रहे हैं, आपका खाना बड़ा टेस्टी था, तो क्या ये खाना आप हमारे घर पे भिजवा सकते हैं. तो उन्होंने 8 दिन के अंदर अपने पूरे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम को रीडिफाइन किया, और उनका जो चेन स्टोर थी वो पहले की तरह बिल्कुल चलने लग गई. एक न्यू वेज ऑफ वर्किंग विथ ए न्यू सेंस ऑफ अर्जेंसी, क्योंकि ये नहीं मालूम कल क्या होगा, कोविड की समस्या किस दिशा में जाएगी. तो जो काम करने का जो पुराना तरीका है उसको अपने नए ढंग में बदलना पड़ेगा, और सेंस ऑफ अर्जेंसी उसको हर वक्त ध्यान में रखते हुए सारे डिसीजंस करने पड़ेंगे. और एक जो सबसे बड़ा चेंज मैंने देखा है, और काफी लोगों से बात भी होती है मेरी, कि मिडिल मैनेजमेंट, अब बिजनेस में मिडिल मैनेजमेंट नहीं रहेगा। मिडिल मैनेजमेंट इज अ मॉडल प्रॉब्लम, क्योंकि मिडिल मैनेजमेंट बिजनेस को सबसे कम समझते हैं और उनको बिजनेस के बारे में समझाना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है। तो अब जो सीईओज हैं, टॉप मैनेजमेंट है, दे आर डायरेक्ट वर्किंग विद द फ्रंट लाइन।
ओके, इसका मिस्टर चौधरी एक फॉलोअप क्वेश्चन। अभी लॉकडाउन है तो 2-3 महीने पब्लिक बाहर नहीं जा रहा है, तो and even my personal experience, Gaurav and Rajat can also add, we are not buying clothes, right? Some of the sale may be happening online, but not the way we used to, right? Not the way we used to go out, maybe in the solo shop or maybe in the mall and all. तो आपको लगता है कि सेल पे हमेशा असर रहेगा अगर ये सिचुएशन कंटिन्यू रहा तो?
देखिए, मैं आपको हमारी जो यूएसए में कंपनी है उसके बारे में बताता हूँ कि जब कोविड की शुरुआत हुई थी तो हमारी सेल घट के 40% रह गई थी, 60% सेल में गिरावट आई, लेकिन धीरे धीरे ऑनलाइन सेल नेक्स्ट मंथ से बढ़ती चली गई और अब हम जो ऑनलाइन सेल पहले जो यूजुअल करते थे उसे भी 10 to 20% यूएस की कंपनी में ग्रोथ है और अभी भी जो हमारी सेल का लेवल था वो करीब 10% ही कम है। तो और हमारी इंडस्ट्री में ये भी हुआ कि जो कस्टमर थे वो मोस्टली अपने घरों पे हैं, तो पहले घरों पे लोग कम रहते थे, तो कारपेट तो हमारा इंटीरियर डेकोरेशन की एक सबसे बड़ा प्रोडक्ट है, तो लोगों ने अपने घरों को देखना शुरू किया, तो अपने घरों में उन्होंने दोबारा इंटीरियर डेकोरेशन वगैरह शुरू की। तो अमेरिका में जो छोटी आइटम है, फर्नीचर है, कारपेट्स हैं, उनकी मांग पहले के मुकाबले बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ी है और इंडिया में भी ऑनलाइन सेल बहुत तेजी से बढ़ती जा रही है।
या आई थिंक कुछ नया तो होगा इन सब सिचुएशन में। सो मिस्टर चौधरी, गुड इनसाइट। आई विल कम बैक टू यू एंड वुड लाइक टू नो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन लेवल पे क्या क्या स्किल सेट परहैप्स यू मे बी प्लानिंग टू चेंज इट। सो विल कम बैक टू यू एंड टेक वन क्वेश्चन। सो विल कम टू Gaurav, now like Mr. Chaudhary said, digitalization, automation became key, like online selling, maybe a small thing, but that's only the thing, where both the party, which is it's happening like B2C, business to consumer directly. So here is the business, here is the consumer. You do everything, you get the response, delivery happening at the home, whatever you want to buy today and whatever you want to sell, right? That the middle part is over. I come back to I come to you from HR point of view. What future of work used to come, or maybe planning to come after 2 years, which is already there. We have seen in last 2 to 3 months, most of the future of work activity is happening. So here question to you, how do you define in terms of digitalization and automation, what the major factor or major changes it will bring, whether it will bring it will reduce the it will reduce the manpower, or it will bring different kind of mindset in the organization, it will bring different kind of manpower workforce in the organization, and how the working style at the workplace is going to be changed only because of digitalization and automation. Some of the company they are coping with, some of the company they are not able to. What's your views?
No, thank you. It's actually a very good question, and it also in a way relates somewhat to what I'm also managing right now. So as you said rightly, and the situation today is of course driven by technology. Whether we like it or we don't like it, we are where we are. I mean, we are looking at each other over screens and these small boxes there, but the job is getting done, and which is pretty much the premise today as to how the workforce is also getting changed to a larger extent. I think if I were to really summarize it, I mean, there is one traditional way of doing it, and the other way is the evolutionary, or maybe the the change aspects as we see, because there is no such thing as an evolved workforce medium. It's always changing. But however, I mean, what's really a fact is the way we used to organize ourselves earlier in a typical setup in an organization where we had a boss, we had, a middle management, like Sir said, is getting muddled these days. But um, those are typically a historic sort of scenario. And what you're investing today on are people, the infrastructure, the real estate, of course, the technology and the equipment that you're providing them. So in fact, the entire 360-degree sort of an investment. Plus, you're taking care of the health benefits, etc., etc. What I'm trying to really hint at is how some of these aspects are really changing today is through technology being the driving force, but itself, the workforce itself is also changing. One, of course, we call this, it's a gig workforce or maybe a freelancers, contractual sort of a workforce environment today. And it is not just limited to, people who are service providers through, say, an urban company or maybe an Uber or things like that. I mean, Bollywood actors are also, in a way, a contract employee, right? So they all work as contractors in a way. Similarly, our jobs are also drastically changing from, doing one job for one company to, doing something that I'm competent on for multiple companies and consulting them as either, as one of my, as a one-off gig or a contract or even as like an assignment. So what I'm trying to say that many organizations have also come up who support and make this transition very seamless and possible. Well, technology sure enables it, but it is not really a solution. I think this is pretty much part one of my answer, I guess. The other element is how do we respond to purely from an HR perspective. How do we really respond to our employees, to our business stakeholders, to our internal and external stakeholders as a function, and not just as a function, but otherwise as a community. There is a lot of operational work that we do, and most of our responses are sometimes very repetitive, very operational, which does not quite require a human being, after a certain point in time. All you need are standard responses to standard questions, and that can be solved through AI or bots and various other aspects. So that specific human intervention is certainly reducing, and it will continue to reduce. But I think also coming back to one key topic that you mentioned was whether it's going to impact manpower. I mean, whether people are going to lose jobs. I would probably argue against this specific element, saying that they would not. They would in fact get eventually upskilled and start looking at things in a slightly different manner, being a little bit more strategic and a little bit more relevant from a functional standpoint, rather than being operational, which we historically have been. So that's, I think, is what probably my take would be from experience. Yes.
Yeah, Gaurav, so you rightly said, though my question was, whether people will lose the job or not. Data says, around 75 million job will be lost because of the automation, but at the same time, 140 million job will be created. Like most of the hotel in this COVID season, they have the robot to welcome the guests actually, right? And there is a one photo. Even most of the hospital, because of this, okay, we should not touch because of the COVID. They started this robot services, and there is one photo you must have seen. Earlier there was a guy on the helicopter. So one is flying the helicopter. The other guy is taking photo, okay, which is being replaced with the drone, right? So that's how the technology is changing. Two people lost the job, but at the same time, there are the companies who are creating a drone. So those will be creation of the jobs as well. Good. So thanks, Gaurav. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Come to Rajat. Rajat, it's not a comfortable question. Okay, I'm putting you in a spot. Now, you being a consultant and from IL gas and energy sector, we have seen, Rajat, from HR side, I can tell you one very pain area, when this thing started, almost 90% HR people were looking for a working from home policy. Yeah, basic thing, basic thing. And it's not a rocket science to create a policy, which is work from home. I'm just giving one example. So I wanted to come to you and understand from consultancy and outsider point of view that, why organization lack, leadership capabilities to deal with such kind of pandemic. Fine, it comes, it was different than actually anything else. But we have seen, many of the organizations who claim to be good leader in the industries and people having a good leadership, they were not able to deal with this crisis. What do you think, what was the
Sorry, I didn't get the last 10 seconds, Ashish. There was some background noise.
I was asking that what do you think, what was the lacking, and why they were not taking help of any outsider as a consultant, as an observer, as an expert?
Well, for one, I think this has caught everybody flat-footed. This was something that nobody had imagined, nobody had built into. Oil and gas companies are fairly either notorious or I should say, known for making all sort of scenario planning. We build everything into our models, from oil and gas prices to consumption to wars, etc. We've looked at demand drop scenarios, but never in our lives did we imagine that we could be looking at a 30% drop in oil and gas demand over a month's period. From end of March till end of May, the total consumption of crude oil in the world dropped by 30%. So that is not something that people had anticipated, right? When it comes to a business like, say, for example, a restaurant business or a client-facing business, you do have these scenarios. You could look at, something would happen and your restaurant is closed for a couple of weeks, right? So you've taken a zero business scenario. But for an oil and gas or an energy company, right, these until unless there's a war going on, this sort of a thing is absolutely unheard of, right? And it took a lot of time, not just for oil and gas companies, but for consultants like ourselves also to come to terms with what was happening. Because now, if you look at a situation last year, right, last year, if you remember, there were some blasts, a couple of terrorist activities in Saudi Arabia, in Abqaiq, where the oil processing facilities were devastated. So there was a problem on the supply side, right? So we are used to supply side glitches. Here, for the first time in many, many years, perhaps after Second World War, are we seeing such a huge demand side glut, right? Where the industries are not active, people are not going out of their houses, aeroplanes are not flying, we are not going to offices, we are all sitting at home, right? There is a complete, the demand has dropped off the cliff, which was something that nobody had really imagined. So it took time for people to kind of get around that fact. You speak about it from an HR perspective. Unfortunately, that's not something that we kind of advise clients on. We work with them more on the operational side, more with them on the M&A side, right? More with them on the capital raise, corporate finance sort of a side. But if you look at everything in totality, even the best of companies, right, did not foresee this coming, right? You had presidents across the world saying that this is absolutely nothing. This will kind of be over in a few weeks or a few days. When realization hit, right, the bigger companies, their first reaction was stop everything, right? We need to butter down, close down our hatches, right? See where we are at. And you had big deals. Boeing was looking to buy out Embraer. They walked out of that deal. Xerox was looking at a $3 billion acquisition. These guys walked out of the deal, right? In the first few months, right up till April, everything was just stop and let's consolidate. Let's see what's happening to our company. Like you said, HR policies were being drawn about. Let's see what are the people that we need. Unfortunately, the people that we don't need. Which are the clients that we need to service right now? Which are the clients that can be pushed back for a few weeks because they do not, or a few months because they do not need our requirements. They do not need our products and services, right? All that internal sort of soul searching took some time. It is now only now that we are seeing where the work of a consultant has gone up, actually. Mr. Chaudhary was saying that the middleman is not required. But in a situation where people don't know what is going on, they have to rely on subject matter experts like us. And we charge them for it. So we actually have clients, both new and existing, coming to us and saying, well, what do we do? right? Whether it cannot be business as usual. The first thing that everybody realizes is that post-COVID, the new normal, everything has changed. Our personal lives, our professional lives, the way we address business, the way we address operations, the way we address finance, the way we look at profitability, right? Everything has changed. And in that new normal, you have to create your own path. You have to create policies, you have to create a framework, and that is different for each and every different company. The policies and framework that Chaudhary Saab might have for his manufacturing setup will be different from what Gaurav is looking at from an insurance provider's perspective, which will be vastly different from the hotel industry, the airline industry, the oil and gas industry. So it's everybody is trying to look at it from a blank page and saying, how is it that we address this going forward? There has been devastation, physical, mental, financial, by no means. But now I think starting the H2, starting July, we're going to see reconstruction happening, right? We are going to see companies which are in a position to get back on their feet doing so. Unfortunately, we are going to see a lot of companies not able to come out of this pandemic because they are in an industry which has been badly hit, or their internal inherent capabilities or inherent capacity of the firm to bounce back is not there. From an industrial perspective, or from an industry perspective, if you think companies in the hotel industry, in the hospitality, airlines industry is going to be badly hit. On the other hand, FMCG, e-commerce, these are the industries which are going to benefit much more than what they were doing. From a manufacturing perspective, what is considered as imperative, what is required is something that's going to see a lot more growth. Perhaps things like automobiles and luxury industries will not. And all that kind of boils down to the basic kind of economic factor for us, which is energy, right? Is the energy requirement of the industry as a whole going to go up or go down? And we're still pandering with that question, right? We've seen a 30% demand drop in crude, but what we've seen is a 5 to 7% increase in LNG imports for India. That means they're not using so much of oil, but the Indian industry is using a lot of gas. Now that's something that we need to make a sense of what is happening. What could be happening is people are using more LNG because people are at home, they're cooking. The LNG prices have dropped. So there is a shift to move from, say, for example, a dirty coal fire plant to a gas fire plant, right? And all this boils down to a new skill set. Ashish, coming to where you're coming from, Gaurav spoke about a word called upskilling, right? And that is going to be very important as we go about our new normal. The skill set that I, as a consultant, had in January and February, let's say, for example, that was number crunching, right? The M&A deal post-July will be very different from the M&A deals that we did in January. Because post-July, we will be looking at companies who want to conserve cash, right? Everywhere, the value accretion was very important. But now what is really important is free cash flow. Is there liquidity in my balance sheet to go in for, I want to acquire a new factory. Do I have the bandwidth to go in for it, right? What is going to be, we always went through contracts with a very fine tooth. Today, things like suspension, things like contract cancellations, things like payment terms. We have something called as MAC, which is called materially adverse conditions, right? Now, these are things that are going to be all the more imperative because today we've seen in this volatile and fragile world that contracts are being cancelled left, right, and center, right? So whilst earlier we looked at contracts from an economic perspective, today we're going to be looking at contracts from a legal perspective, right? So the role of a consultant or an advisor or an M&A person is still there, but the skills that he's bringing to the table are going to be very, very different, right? Now, earlier we used to look at tax. Of course, everybody looked at tax. Profit minus cost, X% is your tax. But today, the government is giving tax incentives to MSMEs. right? The government, a lot of governments are giving loans, are giving financial help to smaller companies, to bigger companies, and that means that there's going to be a sort of a re-evaluation of your tax perspective, right? So from a procedural, from a contractual, from an economic perspective, you need to have new skills. You cannot do business as you were doing business in the post pre-COVID world, right? The way you negotiate today, Middle East is one of the largest crude producers in the world, right? Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, Iraq, they produce close to 60% of the world's crude. Till about last year, they could put forward their terms in a contract, which was generally take or pay, right? You have to take X million barrels of crude that I'm giving you. Even if you don't, you have to pay me, right? Today, they're in a position where they're sitting with surplus crude supplies. So the negotiation that an oil importing country like an India or a China or a South Korea or a Japan against oil exporter countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait will change, because today we know that you may have a contract and whatever the contract may say, but if I don't have the demand for your product, if my refinery is not working, what am I going to do with that oil? So the negotiations of contracts will be different. The way the contracts are implemented is going to be different, right? And all that boils down to different skill sets that not just HR people or perhaps lawyers and taxation people will have, but even negotiators, finance people, consultants and advisors like ourselves. We're looking at a totally brand new world today.
Thanks, Rajat. I think some point I can pick up. Like the way you said, the gas demand will increase. Yes, it's increasing, and I was it's again WhatsApp video. A guy was talking about what is in demand, what you can do. In the end, he says only one thing: make sure you have good Wi-Fi at home. Yeah. So look at it. I mean, now we are at the home. So when we are at the home, obviously we need to eat. Electricity consumption will be high, correct? Yeah. Like we are doing webinar. At the same time, this time maybe 100 or 1,000 webinar may be happening. So that's another kind of new normal. And who are the people running this kind of industries? They need to deal with all these new skills and like another statement. Future of work was saying electric car will fly, but today aeroplane not flying. Yeah. And Rajat, I think aeroplane industry is one of the biggest consumer for as far as this oil and gas is concerned, right? If I'm not wrong. Sorry, that's my education point of view. Okay.
One of the
largest. Yeah. One of the, and they are at, I mean, all the aeroplane not flying mostly. So now we are open for a Q&A, but I will just run one question to all of you. So please, those who are listening to us, post the question. We'll take the question now. Now we'll come to three of you one by one. Start with Mr. Chaudhary. So Mr. Chaudhary, आपकी इंडस्ट्री में so skill set एक होता है कि organization level skill set, capabilities, company का capabilities, कैसे change होगा? That's what we wanted to know from your side. Give us a top 3 point, okay? How the organization need to behave in new normal now. Like Rajat was touching upon so many things, and आपकी इंडस्ट्री में especially textile industries, आप थोड़ा व्यू पॉइंट दीजिए.
ठीक है. देखिए, सबसे पहले तो जो कोविड की वजह से जो एक मन में हर आदमी की जो चिंता शुरू हुई है, तो कन्वर्ट एंग्जाइटी इनटू रिलेशनशिप बिल्डिंग, क्योंकि जितनी रिलेशनशिप बनाएंगे उतना ही जो सेंस ऑफ अर्जेंसी ज्यादा बढ़ेगा. दूसरा, इसको ऑटो पायलट मोड विच टेक्स अस ऑन द आउटर जर्नी. जो आदमी की इतनी जो भागदौड़ चल रही थी, आदमी एक जो ऑटो पायलट मोड में चल रहा था, उसको मालूम नहीं मुझे कहाँ जाना है, क्यों जाना है. वो इस कोविड के बाद में काफी स्टॉप हुआ और एक आदमी की इनर जर्नी शुरुआत हुई है. एंड टू नो एंड रीडिफाइन योर पर्पस. ये समय है कि जिन कंपनियों ने पर्पस अभी कंपनी का डिफाइन नहीं किया था, वो अपनी कंपनी का पर्पस डिफाइन करें, और जिन कंपनियों का पर्पस था वो अपने पर्पस को रीडिफाइन करें, एक बार रीलुक करें. उसके लिए 3 जो स्किल्स चाहिए. तो पहली स्किल है मतलब अडेप्टेबिलिटी, एंड फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी। ये समय है झुकने का। जैसे मैं एक स्टोरी हमेशा बताता हूँ कि जब तूफान आता है बड़ा, तो बड़े जो पेड़ होते हैं उनको तो वो उखाड़ देता है, लेकिन जो छोटा घास होता है जमीन पे, वो जब तूफान आए तो उसकी दिशा में झुक जाता है, फिर तूफान चला जाता है तो वापस खड़ा हो जाता है। तो आज ये समय है कि एडेप्टेबिलिटी एंड फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी लाए। दूसरा जो स्किल्स है ये है क्रिएटिविटी एंड इनोवेशन। जैसे कपूर साहब ने बताया कि अभी नई स्किल्स की, नई सोच की, नई समझ की जरूरत पड़ेगी, तो क्रिएटिविटी और इनोवेशन ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और तीसरा जो सबसे बड़ा जो मुझे दिखाई दे रहा है कि पहले जो बिजनेस थे दे आर ड्रिवन बाय द मैस्कुलाइन पावर। अभी जो बिजनेस जो चल रहे हैं दे आर ड्रिवन बाय द ब्रेन्स, बाय द माइंड। और अब जो फ्यूचर बिजनेस में जो चेंज आ रहा है, द फ्यूचर बिजनेस विल बी ड्रिवन बाय द हार्ट। तो अब सबसे बड़ी जो स्किल चाहिए वो इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस चाहिए।
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. This 3 point, adaptability, flexibility, then creativity, innovation. Some of them going to be continue always. Gaurav. So digital man, Gaurav. Like Mr. Chaudhary said, emotional quotient. There are 3-4 quotient I remember. I can say, digital quotient is one of the new which has come in the list, right? I mean, see, you need to be digital savvy, you need to be virtual etiquette, everything and all. So, Gaurav, question to you, one is, skill set. You can touch upon, if there may be so many people in this webinar that they would like to know if they want to come into workplace or if they are in the workplace, how they can be ready for a future. How organization can take care of their, skill set and re-skills of a skill and all. So which kind of platform company can provide or what they can do outside, because there are so many things which is happening on the self-learning basis also. So working etiquette, when I say working etiquette in the sense skill development also, as far as individual is concerned, is how much organization can support. So please touch upon some of those points.
Ashish, I think I'll try and do 2 things so that it becomes a little bit more relatable. I'll give you my personal sort of an example and what as an organization we are also doing, and it somewhere blends in very nicely. So in no particular order, I think I'll pick up from where you left. So I think investing in learning, and it's not just something which an organization will do for you. It's something that we have to do it ourselves for us, for our own good in a way. So taking an example of how students now passing out are as an example they're learning C, C++, but kahan pe ye skill actually real world mein use ho raha hai? Today we're talking about data scientists, we're talking about AI. So I mean, where are these skills getting used? So I mean, from a mass learning perspective to being very, very relevant to what the skills are required, whether it is pertaining to leadership at a certain level or maybe to basic skills and upskilling. Learning is, I think, one attitude we've got to build for our own selves and invest in it. And today we have an advantage given the COVID times. Many organizations are doing discounted courses. Somewhere it's free, and plus we have the benefit of Google. So I think this is where we should be investing most of our time learning something which is very relevant to our future scope. And Jean did mention that you've got to keep yourself very relevant. So that I think is one area where we've got to invest on. That I think is one key element. The second, and I personally do this, so which is why I said it has to be a relatable factor. The other piece which I feel is having something as your own passion. So to cultivate a hobby into a very serious passion, and keeping that in the same sort of a scope as you keep your work, because if that does not happen, you'll go crazy. Today, I mean, the work hours, there are no boundaries, and you've got to, if you like music, please pursue music or do something, but do cultivate something which keeps your mind off work creatively, and that's important. So I practice wildlife photography, and I've been doing that for almost 12-13 years, and it really is helpful even now. And I guess the last piece which everybody is speaking about is making sure that we manage our work life and time management, which is really crucial today. The lines are very blurred when it comes to work and home. Being at home today, I mean, कोई 10 बजे काम कर रहा है, कोई खत्म ही नहीं हो रहा है इसका, day is not ending, day is starting very early. So that's where we've got to put a stop somewhere and make sure that we get out of this, the screen time and spend some time with family. So these three things: learning, passion, and time and family management, I suppose.
Yeah, Gaurav, I agree on the learning because, like example of this webinar, we four of us from different cities talking to each other, sharing perspective with so many people. They may be from different location. Even earlier speaker is from out of India, right? I always give this example of Goa. I always go to Goa in month of December to just, hang around during Christmas and New Year. And there are a lot of foreigner couples, okay? Live-in partner and lot of foreigners with the kids. They come, they stay in the Goa almost for 3 to 6 months during that time. So I was curious to ask, and I always connect with them. Okay, fine, you come and spend money and all this, but what about your kids? What about their education? So they simply says, education is going to be online. There are a lot of medium. YouTube is one of them, the best learning platform. You get everything. Okay. You type anything, you get everything over there. It's depend upon you what you want to type. Then there are a lot of different platform. Coursera, there are a lot of self-learning app. You can do the education, and I'm sure in future there will be a university which will be just like Ola and Uber. They will not have the premises, but they will provide the degree. Yeah. Okay. So I will stop here. Come to Rajat. Rajat, you touch upon so many points. As a closing remark, would you like to pick up top 3 points specific to perhaps your industries, or as a high level? Okay, these are the 3 things organization need to deal with new normal, and they will be successful.
If you were to kind of take one particular piece, let's talk about growth. Let's talk about M&A. Let's talk about deal making. Right, and kind of focus on that. There was a survey conducted by Harvard Business Review, I think last week, about 10 days back. They interviewed 50 C-level executives from companies that had revenues from $10 million to $5 billion. And they asked them questions about how they feel about M&A, about acquisitions, not divestment, about acquisitions in the coming year. Now, the first thing that came about that 51% was skeptical about going in for new acquisitions, which is clear, because there is so much uncertainty. People do not want to buy anything. People do not want to buy a new company. They do not want to set up a new factory. They do not want to acquire a new brand. However, more than that, 57% of the executives also said that if they feel that there is an interesting target which meets their revenue and value growth plans, they will look at it. So there were more executives that wanted to look at targets which meet a specific requirement. So that is where my point is, that there were companies that were buying anything left, right, and center because they had the cash. Right? Today that's going to change, or tomorrow that's going to change. The companies that are going to be acquiring will look for that value growth, will look for that niche particular USP, and only then try to put money down on the table. Always, value accretion was something that any M&A deal looked at, but they were always strategic reasons. Somebody wanted to enter a new country, and they would go in for a product that does not give them so much value as long as they're getting a better market. A couple of companies, and I know personally, they have gone in for acquisition for the because it sounds nice, it is to satisfy the company's ego that they want to buy a brand, right? Or it may be to satisfy the CEO's ego. But I think all that is going to stop. Ultimately, if an M&A deal does not bring value to the top line and the bottom line of a company, they will not go ahead for that M&A deal. And I think that's where consultants like ourselves have to focus on, right? Focus on a project which is worth its while, find out that diamond in the rough, and then take it to companies. And those projects are going to go ahead. Those M&A deals are going to go ahead, come what may, COVID or no COVID.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to be focusing on now.
Yeah. I think ROI is only the word which I can relate. I think Mr. Chaudhary, Rajat, and Gaurav can relate. ROI is whether it's a people or business. If you get the ROI, go for it, guys. Okay. Thanks, three of you, for your time. We are open for Q&A. Organizer, if you have any question, please come up on the screen and shoot out the question. Or I can help if I can get the access.
I haven't seen any questions here, so I would request the audience members to please post questions in the question box so that I can read them out.
Okay, so by the time question comes, since I don't know how long this new normal would be there, Mr. Chaudhary, there's a textile industries. I think online demand would be there, right? Rajat, M&A will continue because people would want to do the business and they want to earn money. Rajat, company need to grow. Biggest demand in automation and digitalization. There are many companies who are buying HRMS application. Look at the IT infrastructure. One of the biggest things like webinar. There are many people work from home now, so company also need to have good IT infrastructure. Network support and all. So obviously it's creating different kind of setup in the industries overall. Okay, guys, there is a job plus there is a demand for new other things also. And I don't know, Rajat and Mr. Chaudhary, अगर आप लोग input देना चाहते हैं कि we have seen many companies, they have changed their business model. They are no more into same segment they were supposed to be. In fact, I have seen one company वो marks produce करना चालू कर दिया. I mean, I can imagine कितने थोड़े से time में Gaurav, they must have created the skill set capabilities of the people as well, hire the people and start the production, get the license approval from the government and all this, because I mean, there are the people who are making a difference, who are ready to take the challenges also.
Maybe I can just quickly pitch in. You're right, Ashish. There is, it's a fight for survival, right? Today, let's say, for example, you spoke about EVs, you spoke about electric vehicles. Whilst I personally believe that electric vehicles are not something that are going to come up or that are going to disrupt the market in the next few years, it will be a few decades. There will be companies which will go out of business once EVs become the new norm. Once an internal combustion engine is not being sold anymore and it's only electric vehicles that are being sold anymore, the guy who makes the carburetor, the guy who makes the spark plug, right, he's going to go out of business, right? Obviously, it's going to take a lot for the refineries and the oil companies and the oil pump to kind of change. But smaller firms, right, which produce equipment only for an internal combustion engine, they will generally and very quickly see their business model becoming obsolete. Similar thing happened when digital cameras came into play, right? People like Kodak and people like Pentax who made standard cameras just overnight went out of business. So you have to be agile. You have to keep looking at what's going to happen over the next. The previous speaker, I think Gene, spoke about if a candidate says, I don't have a 5-year plan, he's going to kick him out. Very good. Companies need to do that as well. They need to have a 5, 10, 15-year plan. As wild as it may be, they need to see and look what is happening in the world and be in a position to adapt. Because if they don't adapt, then they're going to go the Kodak way. They're going to be insolvent very soon.
Yes, Rajat, that's good point. Mr. Chaudhary, it reminds me of, even Gaurav, you can also relate to digitalization. Organizer, let me know if there are any questions. I don't know whether it's the video of Southeast Asia, some country. I don't know again China because China always is spoken countries. So there is a lady who is standing, okay, and trying all the clothes. Now what she can see in the mirror, and mirror keep changing the cloth. Okay, so instead of actually, you are personally experiencing, which cloth, how does it look like, you're just looking in the mirror. And today, most of the company may be thinking, it's again idea, maybe thinking that, okay, can I do same thing on the app, in the mobile, one side I give a, piece of the shirt and, I'm wearing, how do I look like, right? You know, other way around, Gaurav, you know, one example from company point of view, chatbot you discuss about, you know, chatbot has a one common name for the entire company, right? Larry, Giri, something like this, correct? So there are companies who has a chatbot, dedicated chatbot for each employee. You create your own name, उसको जो पहनाना है पहनाओ, the look like it, just like video game, you know, we play. Why we are more dedicated to video game? Because video game is providing what you want to do with the video games. So there are so many new things happening, and I think it's a lot of transformation. It's end of the day good for user, all of us, okay? And it's end of the day, you know, the company who take the lead, they will make the money, and Rajat will do a lot of merger acquisition in between. Great. Organizer, if there are any questions, then we'll take it. Otherwise, we'll log off now. It's already 6:40. People will have some other commitment.
Sir, we have got a couple of questions from the audience members. So I'm just reading them. Dr. Subrata Chattopadhyay is asking, do we see hole in the wall experiment true today? Is online sustainable or a mix of online and offline is viable?
Okay, I think Gaurav, the digital man, may be the right person to start with. Then rest of them can touch. Yeah.
Sure. If you can really help me understand, repeat the question, please. I probably didn't catch that.
Gaurav, I think question is, you know, online and offline, both combination should be there, or it's only the online which has to be there. What will survive? You know, what the user will look for end of the day.
Well, it will certainly, purely from my perspective, of course, it'll always be a blend. And it has to rightly be a blend going forward in which the online method is slightly higher than, you know, the physical touch points. But if you ask the same question to my 7-year-old daughter, I mean, she would probably say the reverse. I mean, she would say that everything needs to be online rather than, you know, more of a physical, because it really is about a perspective and how effective the medium becomes. But it has to certainly be a blend from my perspective.
Yeah, and all of us can relate. Yeah, all of us can relate. Our kids, your kid, mine kid, everybody kid, those who are, if they are parents, they are teaching everything online, huh?
Yeah.
They are learning everything online. So imagine after 10 years, I don't know what will be the touch, what will be the feeling if you talk about, you know, personal touch, physical touch. I think we need to wait for the time to come and see, you know. Correct. Okay, can we have another question?
Yes, sir, there is another question from Mukta Chopra, madam. She's asking that one-on-one interaction is not happening these days between employees and employers with supervisors. So this definitely has an impact on overall performance. How do we cope up with this new scenario?
Okay, let me begin. I don't know whether it was happening earlier or not. while in the company, whether such thing happening or not, but people are raising a question now. Okay, Mr. Chaudhary, आप कुछ input देना चाहते हैं? उनका वो question कर रहे हैं कि, you know, one-on-one meeting may be less now because of the webinar and online and all this. इसका impact क्या होगा? Rajat can also give some view and Gaurav can also give after Mr. Chaudhary start. Yeah.
देखिए, जैसे मैंने जो हमारी कंपनी में पिछले 3 महीने में देखा है, शुरू के दिनों में तो ज्यादातर जो स्टाफ के लोग थे उन्होंने मतलब अपने आप को कटा हुआ महसूस किया था। उसके बाद में हमने कुछ जो वेबिनार्स वगैरह शुरू किए, तो काफी लोग वेबिनार में एक साथ शामिल होते, तो अलग-अलग बिजनेस सब्जेक्ट पे होता था, कुछ एंगेजिंग एक्टिविटी की। लेकिन ये मैंने देखा है कि घर पे रहने से काफी लोगों की एफिशिएंसी बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ गई। जैसे आपने बताया, जो आने जाने में टाइम लगता था, तो ऐसे मतलब वेबिनार के थ्रू मतलब जो सोशल एक्टिविटी हमने की, तो उससे थोड़ा इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस आया। तो अभी जैसे मैंने बताया कि जो न्यू वेज है कि कैसे मतलब और ज्यादा अपने जो स्टाफ है उनके साथ इमोशनली कनेक्ट हो, उसके लिए उस पर और थोड़ा काम करना पड़ेगा।
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. Rajat, would you like to touch upon something on this point, because you know it's a new normal? Because अभी क्या होता है कि मैनेजर को बोल देते हैं कि मैनेजर doesn't know, even ये न्यू नॉर्मल मैनेजर के लिए भी है. Let's understand this. So I think, yeah.
You're right, and this is here to stay, right? The Zoom calls, the Skype calls, the MS Teams meetings, it is here to stay. Whether it is dealing with clients, whether it is trying to close M&A deals, or even if it is an HR perspective. I interviewed a couple of interns to join us. I haven't met them. Obviously, I cannot because they're, but we interviewed them, we got them on board, we're giving them work, and they're doing work for us, right? So from an HR perspective, that worked. I mean, a very bad example was Uber. I think last month they fired 3,000 people over a Skype call, right? So
Yeah.
both hiring and firing are taking place on video calls. Deal making will take place on video calls. Selling will happen over video calls. It may not be as much as it's happening today, because today it's 100% video and 0% personal connection. Over the next few months, years, it might change, but the sort of proportion of non-physical dealings over a video call or a voice call is just going to grow, because it's so much cheaper, it's so much convenient, and it's acceptable. Earlier, it was not acceptable, right? I could not call up and say, sir, I've got this great M&A idea. Can we have a video call? He'll say, are you crazy? Come down to my office and give you a presentation. Today, it's an accepted and acceptable norm, which is just going to increase, which is just going to go up.
Yeah, you're right, Rajat, because ये अपने university का ये webinar हो रहा है, so you can, I'm sure university must have taken exams, university must have taken admission online as well. Yeah, online internship हो रहा है, online selection हो रहा है student का, correct? So this is the new normal, no doubt, and it's new normal for everyone. People need to understand how they can be virtually. Sorry, there's some problem. Yeah, I think each one of us, not only team member point of view or a manager point of view, I think each one of us should not over assume कि अगर कोई मुझसे बात नहीं कर रहा है मतलब somebody is not happy. Yeah, yeah, that's okay. You can just pick up. I think end of the day, just deal somebody as a human being. Deal human as a human being. Nothing else. There is a formula. I mean, like Mr. Chaudhary touch upon emotional intelligence. Touch upon this. Gaurav, you like to add anything?
Yeah, I certainly, try to give a different sort of a perspective. I think, I believe the question was about, in this scenario, the manager-employee sort of a conversations are going low and all of that. But there is a perspective that we are also toying with. I mean, we're trying to incorporate from a touch point and a performance point of view, a social a performance assessment or performance management kind of an approach. So this is, while it is like a lot of HR jargon, but the real world implementation of it is where the manager is now equipped with a little bit more of data and touch points to have a little bit more meaningful sort of a discussion with the employee or the subordinate, and not just his personal perception given the space, but also from the peer, and it's more like 360 which happens now. So we call it a social performance and an employee management approach. So that's what we're trying to play and implement.
Yeah, I think don't overthink. That's what I can say. Whoever asked the question, don't overthink. Otherwise you'll create a problem which was not there earlier, right? Shatabdi, do you have any question? This is the last question. We can take it now.
So we have this last question, and it is directed towards Rajat sir. So Mr. Parker Paul is asking, recently oil futures went to sub-zero level due to collapse in demand. So what does this imply?
Everybody's talking about negative WTI prices that went to -37. So just a small correction, the negative prices did not, the WTI, which is a different type of crude, did not fall negative because of fall in demand. It was a technical issue which dealt with trading of futures at the New York Stock Exchange. So what happens is the WTI crude, when it has to be squared off, it can be squared off only in one place, which is Cushing in Oklahoma. So if I have my crude trader, crude futures, which were to be squared off on 20th of April, I cannot sell them in the open market. If I sell them in the open market, they cannot be stored anywhere else, right? So for example, say crude produced in India can be stored anywhere, Brent crude can be stored anywhere, but WTI needs to be stored only in one place, Cushing, Oklahoma. That has a storage capacity of 76 million barrels. And around the end of April, that storage capacity was near full. So anybody who had to square off their futures, there was no place to store the crude, right? So it was a technicality that those futures could not be sold. So anybody who was willing to take them off their hands was somebody who had storage capacity. So negative crude prices had to do with more of a storage issue than a demand issue. But that does not take away from the fact that the demand has actually fallen. If you look at crude prices now, or if you look at WTI, they are $40. On April 20th, they were minus 37. So from minus 37 to plus 40, the situation hasn't improved that much. Only the storage capacities have improved. So it was a technicality. Hopefully, we will not see it again. The demand is low, but it's not that low that it warrants a negative crude price. That was an aberration in the trading markets. There was somebody who just made a lot of money at that point of time, right? Crude going negative is probably not going to happen again. I hope, right?
Thanks, Rajat. Or something else will come, which will be managed by crude industries. We don't know. Yeah. Okay. There is always good hope, positive sign always there. Okay. And we just need to ensure we are ready to take up anything which is coming on the way. That's what the skill, reskill, upskill, right? Shatabdi, thanks for your time. And thanks, Mr. Chaudhary, Rajat sir, and Mr. Gaurav. I think this was wonderful insight in a different way. I mean, because Mr. Chaudhary from textile, Rajat from oil and gas, and Gaurav from insurance, and talking about digitalization, automation. Nothing new and nothing normal. What in terms of skill set, it's all there on the Google and internet, because in last 3 months there are so many reports we have seen. What are the skill sets needed? It is just refresher course we keep doing every time whenever we are there on the webinar, either as a delegate or as a speaker. Thank you once again. Shatabdi, you like to propose? Okay, professor is there to propose vote of thanks. Yeah.
So my thanks to all the panelists for bringing their expertise and insights around the table and engaging in such fruitful and constructive manner. So now I would like to invite Professor Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sharma, Provost of UEM Jaipur, to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, it's okay. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, very good evening to all. Indeed, it's a privilege and a great joy for me to extend a vote of thanks to all those who have contributed in one way or the other to make this 89th International Web Conference and HR Congress a great success, organized by jointly University of Engineering and Management, Jaipur, and Smart Society, USA. On behalf of IEM UEM Group, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Gene McNaughton, President, Gross Smart Consulting, Florida, United States, for his excellent keynote address, where he rightly said that to win job or career, you have to learn how to sell yourself by keeping E for educate yourself, D for develop the gap, G for create a greater gap, E for emotional connection. Thank you, Mr. Gene, for this excellent message. Further, I would like to extend our gratitude to all our respected panelists who gave their valuable inputs and suggestions on the topic Life with COVID, Working Etiquettes and Skills Required in Industry. Mr. Rajat Kapoor, Managing Director, Oil and Gas and Energy, Mr. Gaurav Chopra, HR Leader Alliance, Mr. Nand Kishore Chaudhary, Chairman and Managing Director, Jaipur Rugs Group, and Mr. Ashish Gakre, Founder, HR Shapers, for moderating the panel discussion in a wonderful manner. Thank you, sir. All panelists have provided a very positive environment ahead and guided us for a path which can take us to a more prosperous world. All have provided an excellent classification of skills which are ready to take new entrants and will flourish in the days to come during and after COVID period. I would like to thank all the participants who have engaged themselves by putting very positive questions and attended all the sessions with great enthusiasm and interest. I hope this conference has served its purpose. I would like to thank all members of our placement team, Mr. Anish, Mr. Sachin, Mr. Shankar, Mr. Raju Sarkar, Mr. Anuj, and all other team members who have made this conference possible by doing untiring efforts to place everything perfectly. I would also like to thank Smart Society USA and Professor Dr. Satyajit Chakrabarty, Director IEM Kolkata, for providing an excellent opportunity for our students by presenting this conference and by supporting the team at every step of conducting it. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Biswajoy Chatterjee for his continuous motivation and guidance, which made this conference possible at the time. On behalf of entire IEM UEM group, I would like to thank Chancellor Professor Dr. Satyajit Chakrabarty, who always motivate and guide all of us. Only due to his constant endeavors, support and guidance, IEM UEM group, along with the Smart Society USA, has made this 89th International Web Conference and HR Congress a great success. In the last, I would like to thank those who directly or indirectly involved with this conference and whose names I could not mention here. Once again, thanks a lot to all. Best wishes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
to all
you.
of you. On
Thank
behalf
you.
of
Bye
the
bye.
entire IEM and UEM group, I am inviting all to join the session tomorrow. Tomorrow is the second part of the conference. So I invite all of you to join the session tomorrow again at 4:30. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.